everybody. We welcome you to another episode of the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene. My name is Mike Smith, and with me is Bradley Hargis. And we're going to discuss some sports today. And of course, high school basketball, the regular season is concluded, and now district and region tournaments, and the trip to Murfreesboro begins this Thursday, with the boys going up first. And of course, a lot of other things. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl and some baseball and some other, and maybe a little trivia we're going to have a little later today. First off, basketball. Of course, the regular season came to a close Monday night for Bledsoe County basketball. The girls, well, they were supposed to play CSAS, but because of injuries, CSAS had to forfeit, and they got Boyd Christian, I believe, was the opponent.
Boyd Christian.
And it was senior night, and to honor one of the seniors, Emma Reel, they let her take the symbolic first shot. Both teams agreed to do that, and it was quite an emotional moment for her and a lot of people in the crowd, because basically is that she contributed a lot to the basketball team, and she allowed to take that first shot, which she did, and making her final appearance on the court at Bledsoe County High School. Bradley, that's obviously one of the more great moments that happened that night.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get there in time to see that because I was a little late because of work, but it was really nice to hear about it. And of course, throughout the whole game, players were emotional because they knew the seniors that were leaving were obviously emotional about it, because it is tough. I mean, because you play for 5 or 4 years in high school, and you develop those friendships and relationships, and you work real hard for something, and to know that it's coming to an end, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow. But and even the players that weren't seniors, the juniors and sophomores that had built relationships with these players, they were equally as emotional. On the girls' side, boys, they just kind of hide it, better than the girls do, because men, they're just tough men. They don't cry or nothing like that. Well, unless you're me, I cry watching Little House on the Prairie. But
oh Lord!
But the girls, it's really moving to see the young men and young women to going on to the next chapter in their life. Just closing one page and opening up another, because softball's coming up and baseball, and those guys and girls play for those sports as well. So it's going to be. It was good to see that last night or Monday night.
Of course, unfortunately, the end game of the results didn't come out like they'd hoped, as the girls lost to FCS Christian. CSAS had to forfeit that game because of injuries. They only had 4 available players for that, and they chose to forfeit. And that meant basically they were not going to be in the tournament or in the postseason.
Well, that ain't too bad if you play one game and you win one, lose one.
Yeah, well, but 2-0, you really want to do it on the basketball court. It'd be better that way. The boys went up against CSAS, and believe me, it was like watching the NBA.
They're fast
on the court, fast, and they had taller players. They had one guy about at the 7-foot level right now, and he was like, I mean, he would just literally dunk you. They got off to a fast 7-0 start and never let Bledsoe get close, and that, unfortunately, that's the way it ended out. But the boys ended up 11-11 overall. They're 2-8. They will be Thursday at Dunlap for the play-in game against the Sequatchie County Indians, a rematch of last year, which Bledsoe lost in overtime 47-45. The girls have a double bye, which means basically is that they don't play until Friday night at CSAS against Tyner. So Bledsoe, the girls are in the region matchup no matter what, win or lose, but you like to be in a championship game. So this is how it's going to go. Okay, this is for the boys. Sequatchie, Bledsoe, that'll be at Dunlap. That'll be a 7 o'clock tip-off. Brainerd and Marion, I'm trying to read my own writing. And the winner of that game will play CSAS. And while the winner of Bledsoe, Sequatchie will play Tyner, of course. That will be on the 17th. That will be a Saturday game. Those will be Saturday games.
So this is the play-in game. So if the boys, whoever loses this game, they're done.
Right, they're finished. They're done. But anyway, the second round will be at CSAS. That'll be on the 17th. That'll be Saturday. Then on the 20th will be the championship games and the consolation games. That'll be Tuesday night. Now the girls, well, this is a little more cut and dried. Marion and Brainerd is playing their play-in game Thursday night. Thursday night. They will play the winner of Sequatchie County. That's scheduled for Friday night. Bledsoe CSAS. Bledsoe's already won that by forfeit. Therefore, they will face off against Tyner on Friday night. That'll be I believe, a 6:30 p.m. local time start. 7:30 Chattanooga time at CSAS. Then on the 19th, which is Tuesday, the championship games and the consolation games. 6:30 championship game, 5 o'clock consolation game. That's our time. So be sure to keep that in mind because it's fast time over in Chattanooga, slow time over here.
So all the games will be at CSAS except Bledsoe Sequatchie on Thursday night.
Right. That'll be the playing game at Dunlap. Okay, we're going to discuss the 4AA teams. 5 Bledsoe County players have been named to the 4AA squad. For the boys, Jace Raines and Jordan Simmons. For the girls, Kyla Swafford, freshman Ava Reel, and Jalen Anderson. Jelaine Anderson. We apologize to the young lady. They all been named to the 4AA team. Ava Reel, of course, is a freshman, and she's done a great job this season, even though she's a freshman, and she'll be even better next year.
Yeah, they'll be improving as they go along.
Okay, we have to look at it this way right now. Bledsoe's girls finished 6-16 overall. They finished 5-5 in the league. That's for third place. The boys 11-11 overall, 2-8 overall. Your take on the season?
Well, the results of some of the games didn't turn out the way we'd like them. But a lot of those games, specifically, let's start with the boys. A lot of those games, were decided in overtime or by 3 or 4 points. So they were in most of those games. I think they played very well. I think the Bledsoe County boys done a fine job, had a good season. I mean, come out of it 500 going into the tournament with a chance to go into the first round after the play-in game. That's great. They've played hard and they've really grown. You can see they've developed very well. And the girls team, as far as that goes, is rather young. I mean, they've got a lot of freshmen and sophomores that play. A couple of juniors, but they only had 2 seniors.
Right.
Graduated 2 seniors, and Emma had that injury, which was her ankle. So that sidelined her for the majority of the season, but had she got to play, some of the difference may have been made in some of those games because she had that senior leadership out there on the court. But that's just what happens. I mean, I think the girls did very well. I think they've got a lot of growing to do, a lot of maturing to do, and once they do, I think they're taking the steps forward to do those things that they need to succeed in this region. So I look for them to be okay next year and continue to grow. Got some talent coming in. So I think it's going to be a good thing. But this season, they played hard. And what more can you ask for? Those young people get out there and give it their all, and that's really all that you can ask for them. And I'm proud of them for what they've accomplished. Well,
they went from 3 wins last year and no league wins last year to 6 wins overall, 5 league wins, and obviously that is an improvement. The boys, they progressed and then regressed and just sort of leveled off a little bit, but you can't take anything away from these young men and women. I mean, they've done the job, and of course they have a chance to try to go further into postseason, and maybe surprise a few teams. Of course, 50 years ago this year, the boys team made it all the way to the sub-state. Now they call it the sectionals. So it's the 50th anniversary of them. We want to give congratulations, a shout out to them. We want to mention, we forgot to mention this, Zach Brugner made Class 2A All-State as a linebacker. And we've got to mention this in football, and congratulations to him. And of course, we apologize to Mr. Brugner. And we want to make sure that his name gets heard and put out there before I completely forget off the bat.
Watching him play this year, the team did great. We've already went over that, but there's a handful that just really stand out when you watch them play on a football field. And I'm telling you, when he come off the end, off that edge rush, he was in that quarterback's face more than anybody this season. So I mean, it was a joy to watch him play. Not taking away from any of the other players, but it was really a joy to watch him, and it's exciting to see him just bull rush through people and get back there to the quarterback, cause a couple of fumbles. I mean, sacks the quarterback several times throughout the season, and then he turns right around and plays offensive tackle. So he's playing both ways and making some good blocks, and you can see, the proof's in the pudding. We had a good rush and attack this year, and the offensive line overperformed, in my opinion, from what they were expected to do. So it's good to see Bledsoe County get some of those, accolades at the end of the season. That says a lot for our team.
Well, that says about the coaching, particularly. You have the coaches. For the first time in a long while, you have stability.
Yeah.
You have a coach here that's been here 5 years. He's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. He's getting his team ready for spring practice, and then for the fall season upcoming, which is basically the same teams we had last year. They just swap ends, so to speak, as the destinations, of course, opening up against Sequatchie County again. And I think this time I think Sequatchie County is going to find out how tough this team's going to be. Yeah. And I think that's the important thing. Let's talk about the volleyball season for the middle school. They actually start the season tonight at Ray County. They'll be at Ray County. That's a 5 o'clock. I don't know what they call volleyball, tip off, or kick off, or whatever they call them in volleyball.
First serve.
First serve. Okay. Then they at home on the 20th against Richard Hardy, and then Whitwell, South Pittsburgh, Dayton City, Jasper, Van Buren, Cumberland County, Richard Hardy, Stone Memorial, South Pittsburgh, Jasper, Sequatchie, Stone Memorial, Van Buren, Cumberland, Whitwell, and then the district tournament on the April 13th. And the April 11 game is 8th grade night, so basically, which is their version of senior night. So let's hope that good luck goes to the middle school. Archery season starts next month as well. Softball season starts with a home game on March the 12th, and they'll try to even though I think is that without Emma Reel, who is injured, he's probably not going to get to play softball this season, though she will be a member of that team. It's a pretty good group. They have the bulk of their team back.
They've had great success the past few years. They're loaded for bear this year too. They got good leadership. These seniors coming in. I'm excited to watch them play.
Yeah, I think is that they're going to be. Let's hope no bears come out and ruin it for us. They also done some improvements to the softball stadium, new concession stands. They knocked down the old press box. That's gone. So it's so be allowed the fans to see more of the game that way, and I think that's a good thing, and that sort of thing. While I used to do softball broadcasts, it's like I sort of like watching for that ball to go over and whack me in the head. I sort of keep my car parked far away because of all those flying foul balls, obviously. But softball has been a great sport for Bledsoe County this year, and obviously there have been a lot of improvements in the athletic department and the academics as well at Bledsoe County. Much improvements in all areas of the school system, and I think you will agree with that and that sort of thing. So anyway, the postseason for the basketball team begins Thursday, and let's hope that maybe Bledsoe County can pull out, be the district champion.
What's the first day? What's baseball? When does baseball start? Same time?
Same time. About around the same time. It'll be March 12th for the softball team, baseball team, approximately about that time also. So, and also you're also going to have soccer and volleyball. Archery starts next month.
Badminton.
I don't think they play badminton. I think they have a Tiddlywinks championship too this year. I think, as I said, if we had Tiddlywinks, we would discuss it. So I don't know. We're going to have Tiddlywinks. I'm going to get Albert in here so he can discuss the art of marbles.
Oh, okay.
And that sort of thing. So I had him in one time. We were discussing marbles. They told me, ask him about the marbles.
Hey, I'm telling you, they used to play that all the time. It's before my time, but.
Well, I used to play marbles too. I got to be pretty good at it, and until I started losing my marbles and all.
Well, you lost them a long time ago.
Absolutely, the hole in my bag. Okay, well, when we come back, we're going to discuss the Super Bowl, Major League Baseball, some news coming out of that area, and college football as well as in college basketball. As you're watching the Mike and Bradley sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18 and simulcast on WAT.
Come and see the beautiful Sequatchie Valley. And while you're here, visit the Dunlap Mercantile. We have a full line of hats from Resistol, Stetson, Charlie One Horse, American Hat Makers, GG Pip, Greeley hats from the TV show Yellowstone, and a full line of vintage hats. Make sure to check out our hat bar where we can clean, shape, and customize a hat just for you, right here at the Dunlap Mercantile.
You need a bank that you can depend on. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, we have the most dependable staff that you will ever meet. Call in, you will not get an automated attendant, you'll get a person. But on the other side, we have all the technology that anyone would need, from apps to online banking to bill pay. So please come and grow with us as we're about to celebrate our 50th year. We are the only community bank you will ever need.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to talk a little about the Super Bowl. And of course, anybody who's watched the Super Bowl, most people have at least watched a little bit of it, finds the Kansas City Chiefs win 25-22 in overtime against San Francisco. The first time in an overtime game in Super Bowl history.
I don't think it was the Chiefs. I think it was the Kansas City Swifties.
Yeah, well, whatever. But what it is, but the story going around is Jawan Jennings.
Yeah.
He threw for a touchdown pass, and he caught a touchdown pass. And now only one of two players to do that in Super Bowl history. Almost got MVP honors, and he probably should have anyway. But the San Francisco couldn't hold the lead. The Chiefs won that in overtime, 25-22, and a lot of the San Francisco players forgot that in overtime in Super Bowl there is no sudden death. In other words, basically you each get a shot at the end zone. So basically, if it had been during the regular season, San Francisco would have won. But anyway,
if it ends up in a tie after that, both team gets possession, then it goes to sudden death.
Yeah. So that way, but they forgot that rule, and that's understandable because basically, that's it happened. But of course, so one of those is the so-called couple of sort of streakers coming out on the field, probably more interested in the game itself. And of course, they got shoveled off to the Hooskow, and they're all together, I guess. But it was an interesting game. I think that was a game where it really is that you hope that neither team would lose. It's not like the 65-7 games or something that you see the last couple of years in championship games. So basically, it's an interesting game in itself. Bradley, what you think of it?
Well, a lot of different people watch that. You got those that watch it for the commercials. You got those that actually watch it for the game. You got those that watch it because they're actually cheering for, they actually are diehard fans of either the team. And you got those that watch it for the halftime show. And you got those people that just swear it off and say, I'm not watching nothing because I don't like it. I don't like the stuff that goes around it. I will say, though, even with the halftime show, it played a lot of music that took me back to high school days. And as far as that's concerned, for what it's worth, there was more clothing on these people out there than has been in the past. So you got to say that at least a step in the right direction. But as far as the game is concerned, what more could you ask for? San Francisco, they out there and played hard. So did Kansas City. Both teams got breaks. Both teams had things that went against them that probably shouldn't have. But obviously, they were the two best teams in the league. They made it to the Super Bowl. You can't argue that point.
You can't.
You can go back and say, well, this could have happened, this could have happened. Well, you can would have, should have, could have all the way to the bank, but it don't change a thing. But it was good to see those guys out there playing and have a close game. It was very, very evenly matched. And I kind of thought that San Francisco would pull it out. But then again, I said, no. I said, the Kansas City Swifties, They can't lose. because their mascot Taylor Swift is in the box.
You know, I was wondering when he's going to get to that. You know, even nagging me about Taylor Swift. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan.
We know. We know that you are a closet Swiftie.
I got news for you. I'm at work. What do these kids play in the while back there working? Taylor Swift.
We all know that when it's Mike's at McDonald's and why it's so slow is because they're playing Shake It Off and Mike's back there dancing to it instead of working.
I couldn't dance that. You know, it's one day it's Taylor Swift and another days it's Disney tunes.
Oh,
that tells you right there. And I said I'm gonna play Celtic Woman. And they say, who's that? You know, I said I don't even bother explaining it to them because
everybody knows Mike. Just go ahead and tell them we know you're a Taylor Swift fan.
Actually, I'm more partial to Celtic Woman than Johnny Cash. But
I bet you right now. I bet you got an MP3 player or something plugged in to the satellite radio.
I don't have an MP.
And I bet it's on the Taylor Swift channel.
I don't have an MP1 or MP3 player, whichever they are.
You got Sirius radio on that hog you're driving?
No, I don't.
What kind of radio you got?
I have the ability to get Sirius, but I don't. But you gotta subscribe to that, and I ain't gonna do it.
He's got a Taylor Swift 8-track stuff in there.
8 tracks.
We know.
That's 1970s. Oh God, it doesn't have a CD player on it. What are you talking about?
We know.
I listen to FM, classic rock, the Hog, Crossville Roast, and I don't want to get in trouble with Billy now on that. But anyway, but you know, it was an interesting game. I think it's more interesting than most Super Bowls. Remember the first Super Bowl, they actually had unsold tickets.
Mm-hmm.
They had empty seats. And you know, it cost $8,000 to
well, yeah, I wonder why they wouldn't why they weren't a sellout, you know?
Back then it wasn't a big thing. It was not a big thing. It was just it wasn't until Super Bowl III when you had New York Jets beat the Baltimore Colts that it got interested. Because what it is, you cost $8,000 for a ticket now to go see it.
And that's in the nosebleed.
That's in the nosebleed section. And you know, like $7 million for a commercial. How silly it is. Used to be, like I said, is that they used to have it where you had a 30 minutes of pre-game, you had the game, high school band comes on, college marching band comes on, does their little thing, has the second half, does an hour post-game, goes off the air, and they would have it in the afternoon in an open stadium.
Oh, it's an all-weekend deal now.
Yeah, it's a 2-week thing, actually. You know, it's like college football. And speaking of college football, we do have some news. UCLA has looking for a new head coach. Chip Kelly has resigned, and he has gone to be offensive coordinator at Ohio State. And I don't know about that because Chip Kelly's tenure at UCLA at Westwood, is what they call it, it was not very good. That he had I think he had the most wins he had in the season was 8 wins, and you know, he just didn't look good. Well,
trying to have an Eastern football mindset on the West Coast is not going to work. I mean, you can't go out there. They're all about the points. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why you see the further west you go, the more points they seem to score, mm-hmm. and the less defense they have.
Yeah.
But he's got that mindset of kind of having a middle of the road on both, and it didn't work. Don't work in the Pac-12 or the Pac-2 or the Pac-nothing now. I think they're probably in the negative now. But UCLA can have him.
You know, I used to say about college football, in the East, it's an intellectual exercise. In the Midwest, it's like, you know, it's aw shucks, let's go out, as soon as we finish watching the game, let's go out and shuck the corn. Mm-hmm. In the Southwest, it's like, let's barbecue Bevo. And out west, on the West Coast, it's like, let's go surf, man. In the South, it's a religious experience. Mm-hmm. That's the difference in this sort of thing. And, you know, that sort of thing. Now, the spring game at Knoxville will be held this year, but they'll allow 10,000 people in the stadium due to renovations being done there. And,
I'll give that a thumbs down.
Yeah, and you were talking about that. And 10,000 people, and they're going to go through like the season ticket holders and give that's so like $10 a ticket or $15 for premium seats, and used to be free. You know, that's the reason why I went, because it was free.
There shouldn't be no reason, even with them doing construction, there shouldn't be no reason why they couldn't fill in at least both sides. Maybe not the ends, leave them open for your,
Well, this is what they could do. We could invite them down here to the high school.
Oh
yeah,
goodness.
think of it. We could just have that wall to wall with Vol fans. Just think about it.
If I had an eye roll emoji, I would hold it up right now. Eye roll emoji.
Well, it would work, wouldn't it?
Goodness gracious.
Well,
you
it
couldn't
would-
get 10,000 people in our stadium.
You got the sidelines.
Sheesh.
Just tell them bring their folding chairs, sit there and enjoy the game. I mean, that's
A man can dream, though. I mean, hey, yeah.
You know, just like at Tellico Plains when we played Dub Airs.
We could always go raid Vanderbilt Stadium.
Yeah, well, they talked about it. They talked about taking it to Chattanooga or to Cookeville, or East Tennessee State Stadium or Middle Tennessee State, but they decided because they wanted to attract the biggest number of recruits there, they wanted to have it at Neyland and that sort of thing. So these spring games. A lot of people say spring games are just more like anticlimactic. It's just for fans.
Yeah.
It's not for the team and that sort of thing. Of course, basketball. College basketball is in the air. Of course, Tennessee, number 8 in the nation this week, going to be face off against Arkansas. At Kentucky, the fans are not too happy with John Calipari. He dropped 3 straight once, including a huge beatdown by Tennessee at Lexington. And you don't lose to Tennessee and expect to get out unscathed.
Hey, the Kentucky faithful, even though John Calipari's been like the savior of them since Tubby Smith left, but you don't win at Kentucky, they're going to be calling for your head. And I think a lot of them are doing that right now because they think Calipari is kind of off his prime and losing his edge, and he may very well be. But the fact of the matter is, he's still producing one and dones up there at Kentucky. They play 1 year and they go to the NBA draft, so it's kind of hard to build a program. When you're bringing in freshmen, and your freshmen and sophomores are leaving for the NBA draft, so you're kind of at a loss there for the juniors and senior years. But it couldn't happen to a better team.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. There's not a fiber in my body that cheers for Kentucky.
Yeah.
I'm all orange.
Yeah.
So anytime Tennessee can beat Kentucky, I'm tickled. I'm just tickled to death.
And why are you wearing Georgia colors?
This is Valentine's red, man. It's Valentine's.
Anyway, by the way, it is Happy Valentine's Day
Yeah.
for those who remember. That's why we have this up here. I thought it was for me, but apparently
Well, I put
it's
that
not.
there so it reminds you, and you waited this long to say something about it.
Yeah, well, I kind of thought you'd get on sports, but anyway. But did you get your wife anything, or are you going to sleep on the couch tonight?
No, my wife is took care of. She's got everything she needs, and we're gonna go and do what she wants to do this weekend because she wants to go out to eat and go do something. I don't really know what. She's got something up her sleeve, and I said, well, we'll do whatever.
You'll get that cat to cuddle up with you, too.
My Valentine's gift was I wanted her to give the cat away.
Nobody's going to take your cat.
I'm not going to get my Valentine's gift, so I am the one that disappointed.
And so it goes. Anyway, the college basketball, a lot of things still happening here. Of course, you got the SEC tournament coming up, and then the NCAA and the NIT coming up as well. And it just it's the same thing with college football. That Pac-12 will be no more after the basketball season is shut down. SEC's going to have the Okies and the Shorthorns in. And that may sound like an insult to them, but I don't think Oklahoma and Texas fit in as SEC teams. I just don't.
Neither do Missouri and Texas A&M.
Yeah, but I can understand Texas A&M. At least they had they couple SEC coaches. Bear Bryant has a connection with that.
When you've got other premier high caliber teams that are further east and further south than Texas A&M, Missouri, and Oklahoma, there is no reason why those teams on the outskirts of the Southeast should be in the Southeastern Conference.
They were talking. They were talking on a TV program about the changes in the SEC. If there were 2 teams that are in the SEC right now, you would want to get rid of, who would it be?
Vanderbilt.
That was one of them. What was the other? South Carolina. a lot of people wanted South Carolina gone because but Vanderbilt's not going anywhere. This is not like the Big East where they told Rutgers to Temple to move along. We don't want you anymore because you don't win. Then they start winning and then they want them back.
They should have brought in Duke and North Carolina. They should have brought in Clemson and Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's going to be a kicker team, if one of those two teams didn't do it, one of those four teams, Georgia Tech.
Well, Georgia Tech was a former member of the SEC.
Well, I know, but they should. If they're going to expand, they could have done it right here, within the confines of the actual southeastern states.
Well, you would that would be true because you would have SEC teams, 2 teams from each state. You have Tennessee and Vanderbilt, and the state of Tennessee. You would have to get Louisville in for Kentucky to go up against Kentucky because they play each other anyway. Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia Tech, Georgia.
Well, I mean, you got a wealth of Florida teams too.
Right.
I mean, aside from Florida Gators, it's already in the SEC. You got Florida State, you got Miami, you got even UCF and Southern Florida.
I wouldn't take Miami.
Our Vanderbilt caliber teams.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's 4 outside of Florida Gators that from Florida that could be in the SEC.
I wouldn't want Miami in the SEC. They got that thug mentality. People talk about, they're full of thugs. And of course they had a lot of tough guys play on that and they won those championships, but they've not been that relevant lately. Florida State would be perfect because you have a respectability there, and
they were politely told thanks but no thanks, I believe, when they asked to.
Well, Florida objected. They said they had enough rivals as it is.
Well, sure. I mean, South Carolina objected to Clemson. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and Kentucky probably would object to Louisville. Georgia would probably object to Georgia Tech because you've got the recruiting. Of course, who's going to pick Georgia Tech?
What about Tulane? You get Tulane back in the SEC.
Tulane, they're overperforming. They're in the top 25 almost every year. I mean, they could definitely come in and
go up against LSU.
But I'd say LSU would knock that.
Yeah.
So,
but it looks like this. The reason the Southwest Conference went out of business is because that was an all Texas conference after Arkansas left, and they weren't there to expand for just for the football money. Texas and Texas A&M had this beef about it, and they tried to get LSU to join the Southwest Conference. LSU said no. Someone suggested Memphis. I said no, not powerful enough. And they ended up breaking up because it was an all Texas conference, and the honest with Texas and Texas A&M and a couple of other schools were the big dogs, and everybody else was nothing. Mm-hmm. And that's the way he was. He was basically because of so many Southwest Conference teams being on probation. Remember SMU and the death penalty, that it was decided that Arkansas decided it was going to go to the SEC, where they didn't have to be associated with the chain gang, so to speak. But that sort of thing. But that sort of thing. Big Ten is going to have all but 2 or 3 members of the Pac-12 joined them. Colorado, I think Utah's going back to the Big 12, and I think Stanford's going to the ACC. Come on, let's get serious now. I didn't know the Atlantic Ocean was that far inland.
What other? There's another Pac-12 team that's going to the ACC.
I'm trying to remember.
It's left me.
Cal.
Yeah.
Cal.
Stanford and Cal.
And they're already arguing over
money. Of course,
money.
USC, UCLA,
SMU's going to the
Oregon, Washington. Where's Oregon State and Washington State going?
They're staying in the Pac-12.
There's not going to be a Pac-12.
There's a Pac-2, but they made an agreement to play the Mountain West Conference games with the Mountain West Conference, and they formally will not be members of the Mountain West Conference. Basically, to fill their schedule out. And of course, after next year, what's the SEC schedule going to look like? You're not going to have the old Alabama and Tennessee. You're not going to see that played anymore. Right? How many riots you want in Tuscaloosa and Knoxville to happen?
Yeah.
The only one that Tennessee is certain to be playing will be Vanderbilt, and that's not what you might call that's not what you call a tough row.
Well, it's the same way. I mean, it's the same way with Alabama. I mean, how many years have they beat us in a row? Aside from the stunner in Knoxville when we won
16 out of last 17.
I mean, And the Bama faithful are right. Is that even really a rivalry anymore?
Oh,
Because Alabama is such a powerhouse, and we've struggled so many years to beat them. I don't know. I think at this point, the Florida and Tennessee rivalry is more of a rivalry. I also think that Kentucky-Tennessee is more of a rivalry right now.
well, the thing about it is that with Kentucky, the thing about it is Bear Bryant, when he used to coach at Kentucky, is that he never beat Neyland. He was the only coach Bear Bryant never beat on a regular basis. 5-2. And he used to say, he said, the problem is that Neyland had better players. He was better. He coached better than I do, and I couldn't stand it. And he only beat Tennessee after Neyland retired. And he said, thank God the old guy's gone. That's what he was saying. You have to remember this. Kentucky, there are times Kentucky's coming with a better team, and Tennessee still beats them.
Yeah.
Because it's a mindset. Hey, this guy's coming there. Well, I hope we'll beat Tennessee. Maybe we'll beat Tennessee. Not likely, but it could happen. And only 4 times in 4 years has Kentucky beaten Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That's a record. Vanderbilt's beaten Tennessee more times than Kentucky.
And all of them been heartbreakers too.
Yeah, too. And that sort of thing. Okay, everybody. When we come back, we'll have some trivia, including the SEC's worst coaching hires in football. As you're watching the Mike and Bradley Sports Scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, Channel 18.
Support small business and shop DunlapMercantile.com.
A good bank has people you can depend on, people who grew up here and can handle today's issues and growing technology. Here at Citizens Tri-County Bank, this is the way we've served the community for almost 50 years. Ready to help you in person, online, and on our app whenever you need it. Choose the bank that cares about you. Citizens Tri-County Bank, the only community bank you'll ever need.
At Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter, we're committed to be better. Better prices, better vehicles, a better experience. Your Jason Lewis Dunlap Supercenter understands that you rely on us to provide you with the highest quality of used vehicles. With over 350 pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. So what are you waiting for? Let us show you a better experience with the Jason Lewis Automotive family. Come visit us at Rankin Avenue here in Dunlap or on the web at dunlapsupercenter.com.
Okay, we're back. This is a little bit of trivia. A couple of days ago, I was flipping through the internet, and they had one called the worst football hires in SEC football history. And we know about quite a few of them, don't we, Bradley?
Yeah.
Yeah, because these programs might take a good program and something they would send it into the scrapper. So here are the what you call the top 10 disasters in college football history. Derek Dooley, Tennessee, 2010-2012. Now, in all honesty, he came in because Lane Whiffen suddenly decided to jump ship in late January and go to Southern Cal, where he actually got fired in an airport a couple of years later, so they call it ironic justice. He came in late after David Cutcliffe turned down the head coaching job because he wanted to bring his own people in, and he wanted to fire the coaches that were on staff. And so Derek Dooley got the job, and people thought, well, he's the son of Vince Dooley. He'll do real good at Tennessee. He had only one 6-win season, one bowl bid. Now, a couple of the wins losses they had went against the Music City Bowl against North Carolina, where they didn't have a 10-second runoff, and they put that in. They called it the Tennessee rule. And then against LSU, because Tennessee had too many men on the field, and LSU got to run the play and won in Knoxville.
Both of those were questionable.
Yeah, those were questionable.
To say the least.
Yeah. And so with Derek Dooley, what was the killer that he lost to Kentucky on a bad call, and then loses to Vanderbilt, and not only loses to Vanderbilt, gets absolutely splattered over the landscape. And as I said, that day Tennessee played like Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt played like Tennessee. And Vandy had a good team, had a great team. They had won 9 games that year. And so as a result, Derek Dooley was fired the next day, and they brought in Butch Jones, who was better, but the 5th year he didn't do any good, and he was fired too. So Derek Dooley was one of the disaster. He's 15-21.
Yeah, we didn't know at the time, but Butch Jones come in and said he was going to build it back brick by brick. Well, we thought he was going to actually.
He forgot the mortar.
We thought he was going to actually use masonry bricks, but no, he was building with Legos. Yeah, you can't do that in the SEC.
He forgot the mortar.
Yeah, he forgot something.
Okay, Georgia. Johnny Griffith. Now, I know you don't remember him. This is before your time. 61-63. He succeeded Wally Butts, the legendary Georgia coach. And when Wally Butts had a substandard season, Butts was moved up to athletic director in Griffith. The problem was with Griffith is that he wouldn't allow the athletic director anywhere near the football team, which is unusual for that, and he had bad seasons. And so after 1963, he was replaced by, Vince Dooley. Ironically, Vince Dooley was pursued by Tennessee to be its head coach. Now, if Vince Dooley had taken the job at Tennessee, think how history could have been different for Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah.
They got Doug Dickey instead, so he had a record of 10-16-4. That's not a good record. That's 40%. No bowls, no SEC championships. He didn't have a winning season in the whole time. The only thing he beat Alabama in 1961. That was about 1960, and that was about the only thing. Okay, the other one. Dixon Foster, South Carolina. Now this is one. Okay, we're back. This is a little bit of trivia. A couple of days ago, I was flipping through the internet, and they had one called "The Worst Football Hires in SEC Football History," and we know about quite a few of them, don't we, Bradley?
Yeah.
Yeah, because these programs might take a good program and something they would send it into the scrapper. So here are the what you call the top 10 disasters in college football history. Derek Dooley, Tennessee, 2010-2012. Now, in all honesty, he came in because Lane Whiffen suddenly decided to jump ship in late January and go to Southern Cal, where he actually got fired in an airport a couple of years later, so they call it ironic justice. He came in late after David Cutcliffe turned down the head coaching job because he wanted to bring his own people in, and he wanted to fire the coaches that were on staff. And so Derek Dooley got the job, and people thought, well, he's the son of Vince Dooley. He'll do real good at Tennessee. He had only one 6-win season, one bowl bid. Now, a couple of the losses they had went against the Music City Bowl against North Carolina, where they didn't have a 10-second runoff, and they put that in. They called it the Tennessee rule. And then against LSU, because Tennessee had too many men on the field, and LSU got to run the play and won in Knoxville.
Both of those were questionable.
Yeah, those were questionable.
To say the least.
Yeah. And so with Derek Dooley, what was the killer that he lost to Kentucky on a bad call, and then loses to Vanderbilt, and not only loses to Vanderbilt, gets absolutely splattered over the landscape. And okay, we're back. This is a little bit of trivia. A couple of days ago, I was flipping through the internet, and they had one called "The Worst Football Hires in SEC Football History," and we know about quite a few of them, don't we, Bradley?
Yeah.
Yeah, because these programs might take a good program and something they would send it into the scrapper. So here are the what you call the top 10 disasters in college football history. Derek Dooley, Tennessee, 2010-2012. Now, in all honesty, he came in because Lane Whiffen suddenly decided to jump ship in late January and go to Southern Cal, where he actually got fired in an airport a couple of years later, so they call it ironic justice. He came in late after David Cutcliffe turned down the head coaching job because he wanted to bring his own people in, and he wanted to fire the coaches that were on staff. And so Derek Dooley got the job, and people thought, well, he's the son of Vince Dooley. He'll do real good at Tennessee. He had only one 6-win season, one bowl bid. Now, a couple of the losses they had went against the Music City Bowl against North Carolina, where they didn't have a 10-second runoff, and they put that in. They called it the Tennessee rule. And then against LSU, because Tennessee had too many men on the field, and LSU got to run the play and won in Knoxville.
Both of those were questionable.
Yeah, those were questionable.
To say the least.
Yeah, and so with Derek Dooley, what was the killer that he lost to Kentucky on probably on a bad call, and then loses to Vanderbilt, and not only loses to Vanderbilt, gets absolutely splattered over the landscape. And as I said, that day Tennessee played like Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt played like Tennessee, and Vandy had a good team, had a great team. They had won 9 games that year, and so as a result, Derek Dooley was fired the next day, and they brought in Butch Jones, who was better, but the 5th year he didn't do any good, and he was fired too. So Derek Dooley was one of the disaster. He's 15-21.
Yeah, we didn't know at the time, but when Butch Jones come in and said he was going to build it back brick by brick. Well, we thought he was going to actually.
He forgot the mortar.
We thought he was going to actually use masonry bricks, but no, he was building with Legos. Yeah, you can't do that in the SEC.
He forgot the mortar.
Yeah, he forgot something.
Okay, Georgia. Johnny Griffith. Now, I know you don't remember him. This is before your time. 61-63. He succeeded Wally Butts, the legendary Georgia coach. And when Wally Butts had a substandard season, Butts was moved up to athletic director, and Griffith. The problem was with Griffith is that he wouldn't allow the athletic director anywhere near the football team, which is unusual for that, and he had bad seasons. And so after 1963, he was replaced by, Vince Dooley. Ironically, Vince Dooley was pursued by Tennessee to be its head coach. Now, if Vince Dooley had taken the job at Tennessee, think how history could have been different for Georgia and Tennessee.
Yeah.
They got Doug Dickey instead, so he had a record of 10-16-4. That's not a good record. That's 40%. No bowls, no SEC championships. He didn't have a winning season in the whole time. The only thing he beat Alabama in 1961. That was about 1960, and that was about the only thing. Okay, the other one. Dixon Foster, South Carolina. Now this one goes way back, 1917, and this guy must have been hit. He went 4-12-1 in 3 seasons, and that was back then when you didn't have the SEC, you didn't have bowl championships, and I don't think they ever had 500 or 600 fans in the stands, so that sort of thing. So basically, is that the only victory was a 6-0 triumph over Erskine College, which is wherever that is, and so that sort of thing. Karbexker took over from him. He had a 26-18 record, so that was better for him. Curly Hallman, LSU, 91-94. He took over from Jerry DiNardo, who was at Vanderbilt, and then he jumped ship to go to LSU, and Jerry DiNardo didn't do very well, and so Curly Hallman came in there. He had a record of 16-28. That's again substandard. 36%. That's low. At LSU, that's when they got rid of him, and they started bringing in coaches that started making a difference. And then they brought in Nick Saban, who won a national championship, then Les Miles, who won another one, and so the story goes. Okay, Raymond Wolf. That's another name you don't know. Florida, 1946 to 1949. Raymond Wolf. He was one of the when Florida was not a very powerful team in the SEC. They're not a powerful team in the SEC now. But Raymond Wolf, 13-24-2, 35%. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's bad. He only won 2 SEC games in the entire time. He was replaced by a man named Bob Woodruff. And if that sounds familiar to you, he was Tennessee's athletic director in the 60s, 70s, and 80s before he retired. And he became head coach of Florida. And he brought in Doug Dickey, who was his quarterback on the Florida teams in the 50s. So it went well. And let's see here. Let's see who's next on the list here. Otis Douglas, Arkansas, 1950-1952. He succeeded the very good coach, and John Barnhill, who was at Tennessee as an assistant coach and then as a head coach when Neyland was off the war. His record was he had a 2.8, 5.5, and 2.8 record, which meant basically 9 games. And he didn't. And who did they get? Who did they get to be the head coach after that? A guy named Bowden Wyatt, who lasted 2 seasons, went to Tennessee. He took Arkansas to the Cotton Bowl. It's very interesting how you can have these good coaches here. Ed Orgeron, remember him? Ole Miss, 2005, 2007. This is a guy who came to Tennessee as offensive coordinator, and then went to USC.
Yeah, he followed Kiffin.
Got fired, and then he took over for Kiffin when he got fired. Did a good job. Didn't get hired by USC as permanent head coach. Went to Oregon, 3 seasons at Oregon, 10-25. He was not very good.
He wasn't good at Ole Miss.
No,
but you can't tell me that he did not fit the persona of LSU.
Yeah, but he got
that Cajun draw.
He got into trouble.
He had a problem.
He won a national championship, but he got into trouble.
But you can't tell me if he had just kept his hand out of the cookie jar, so to speak, he'd probably still be coaching LSU.
He was shown the door after having a winless conference season.
Yeah.
So Ed Orgeron was that sort of thing. Woody Weidenhofer, Missouri, 1985-88. He was also head coach at Vanderbilt too, and he stayed a couple of seasons before deciding that this was not fit for him. Woody Weidenhofer, he went 12-31-1. That's when Missouri was in the Big 8, and he was shown the door. He went back to the NFL, and he went to Vanderbilt, where he was head coach, and he finished his career at New Mexico before his retirement. So he was not a guy who was fit to be a head coach anywhere really. Mm-hmm. And Woody Weidenhofer was just Woody Ball is what they used to call it at Vanderbilt. And so let's see here. See up here as this phone decides it's going to take its time in the world. Charles Shura, Mississippi State. Now that's a name you never heard of, and I never heard of it much. He was a football coach. He was also the athletic director at Mississippi State. So in fact, he fired himself, which is probably the best thing to do. He went 16-45-2, and Mississippi State was not well known to have a ball. They also said Sylvester Croom was also one of the worst coaches at Mississippi State, but at least he had a winning season.
Yeah,
and took it to a bowl. And sure. John Ray, Kentucky. The University of Kentucky, 1969-1972. They had fired Blanton Collier, who had succeeded Bear Bryant, and Blanton Collier acted too much like Bear Bryant, and he just killed his players in practice to where they couldn't win. And John Ray came in. He was a Notre Dame guy, and he came down there and figured that a Notre Dame coach can turn this thing around. Didn't work. Not at Kentucky. His only good thing is that he actually integrated. He was the first SEC team to integrate their football team. So he had a positive contribution to that. His record was 10-33 and 23%, and he was at the NFL as a defensive coordinator of Buffalo Bills. Anyway, let's go this one. Hank Folberg, Texas A&M. One of those coaches that lasted 2 years, and of course A&M couldn't win anything, and he was replaced by Gene Stallings, who won at Texas A&M, won the Southwest Conference title in 1967. And then Robbie Caldwell, Vanderbilt. Now, he was an interim coach, so basically I don't see how it could be, you might say, the worst coach. He was then Bobby Johnson retired. And he went 2-10 in one season, and they fired him. So he was more or less an interim coach until they brought in. And who did they bring in? James Franklin. And he won 24 games. So the talent was there. It's just that the coaching was the problem. And that sort of thing. And Auburn, Earl Brown. Now this is an interesting thing. Earl Brown was the head coach of Auburn from 1948 to 1950, and he was an absolute just terrible coach. And it was so bad that nobody wanted to come to Auburn to play Auburn because they only had a 20,000 seat stadium. And Who replaced him? Shug Jordan. And the story was that they were so broke they had no money for scholarships, for uniforms, for anything. So the athletic director and Shug Jordan had to go to a bank and borrow $150,000 just to open the door. And 6 years later, they won the national championship. That tells you how it is. And here is the top disgrace. Jennings Whitworth. Now, Alabama. He came from Oklahoma State to coach at Alabama after Red Drew stepped down. His record was 4-24-2, including a winless season in 1956. And they called him Ears because his ears stuck out. And they called him Ears. He lasted 3 seasons, 54-57. Who succeeded him? Paul Bear Bryant. And you know how that was. And Bart Starr, this is what he said. Whitworth left the entire starting field from last year on the bench the whole season. And he let subs play the whole season. And Starr said, I don't know why he did that. I don't know why he did that. And that was the thing. And the story was that Whitworth would have all these starters standing around during practices doing nothing while the subs were doing it, and then they tell the starters to get in there and start practicing, and they weren't warmed up. They were called, you have to warm up in order to play the game, and he didn't do it. And he said the players told Bryant, that's what's happening. That's why the team ran into the ground. That's why they brought Bryant in. So those are the worst hires you could find in SEC football history.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Tennessee didn't have a few more on that list.
Well, they did have it. They did have a few. John Parker was a coach in 1933. Neyland had gone into the Army. Was in the Army at the time he was coaching in the 1930s, and they told him you got to go to Panama for your Army assignment, and that means he had to give up being head coach. They brought Parker in. Britton Parker was his name. Brought him in as he was assistant coach. They went 4-5. They said, we need Neyland back. You already brought Neyland back, and of course, you know the rest of the story, that sort of thing. And then you had Harvey Robinson. He succeeded Neyland right off the bat. You should never succeed a legend. You should be the second coach to succeed a legend. You remember Alabama after Bear Bryant stepped down, you had Ray Perkins. And he went 10-10-1, and he really didn't do very well, but because they were changing formation, they were going back from 2-platoon back to 1-platoon football, and that was part of the problem. But you had to hand it to Harvey Robinson. He did recruit excellent. So basically, you had including a young kid named Johnny Majors as a tailback. You look at all the coaches that you had. You look at Jeremy Pruitt. Oh yeah, that was an interesting hire. He had 2 losing seasons out of 3. He got the program into trouble, so I say he's up there along the worst.
Yeah.
And then of course you got Butch Jones, and then of course you got Lane Whiffen, who basically bailed out on us. You could probably have half a dozen examples of coaches going far back, that sort of thing. All schools always have bad coaching hires. Yeah.
I mean, that season, and they were calling for his head and wanting somebody new in there. Was far past his prime, sure, but I do believe for the program stability, him finishing out his tenure, would have been better in the long run than letting him go.
That was knee jerking by Mike Hamilton. He heard stories that the big boosters were going to withhold money, and it turned out absolutely to be untrue.
Yeah.
And I think it's that him and Hamilton must have got into it a few times, and when the athletic director and the head coach gets into it a few times, you're going to have problems. Right. The same thing with Doug Dickey and Johnny Majors. They probably got into it a few times. Of course, that went back to the '88 season when they started at 0-6, and then of course that sort of thing. And Johnny won 1 to 5 remaining games, would probably saved his job. And of course, he made some changes, and they ended up winning 2 SEC titles after that. But it's just how you look at it. It's not, coaches aren't cheap anymore. Ticket prices aren't cheap. Anything's not cheap anymore. Nothing anymore. But that sort of thing. You look at prices at high school games. $7. And oh, by the way, the basketball tournament is a $10 admission gate to the district tournament. So basically, is that you're going to be shelling out a little more money this year. So well, this is going to do it here. Bradley, you got some final words?
Final words: get out there and support your Warriors in the district tournaments coming up this week, and get ready for softball and baseball and soccer and volleyball and badminton.
And of course,
and archery. So
MLB is also having the spring practice.
Spring training is about to get underway. So pitchers and catchers have already reported, I believe. Mm-hmm. So I always close out saying, "Go Braves, go Blue, and go Big Orange."
All right, then like that. I said tomorrow night, Bledsoe boys will be at Dunlap for the playing game in the District 4AA. So we ask that you show up for that game at Dunlap, and we know you will. That'll be 7 o'clock. Tip-off. We'll have the pregame at 6:50 here on WAT. Then Friday night, the girls will be traveling to Tyner to take on the Lady Rams at CSAS. That's Chattanooga School of the Arts and Sciences. If you don't know where that's at, you go into downtown Chattanooga, you get on 3rd Street, and you just follow it, and you see this huge brick building on the right just before you get to Erlanger Hospital. That's CSAS. And by the way, that building is on the National Register, on the left, National Register of Historic Places. If you know, similar to what Bledsoe County used to have. But anyway, again, that game time was set for 6:30 Friday night, and of course, with the championship games to be on Monday and Tuesday night afterwards. So again, we do encourage fans to show. And also, we want to remind you of this: is that they did ask me to say this. They're trying to raise some money to pay for a trip to Washington, D.C. and New York in the fall. They had some bake sales Monday night at the game, and it basically is to raise money for those who can't afford to go. And then I think about 3 or 4 students who can't afford to go. That would be about $1,300 a piece. And so if you want to give some money for that cause, that will be in October during the fall break. To Washington, D.C. and New York, a good educational trip. I've been there. I've been there to New York City and D.C. and I look at it, you get thrown in jail there. I'll tell you some stories on that later at a baseball game, Major League Baseball game. See the Mets, as a matter of fact, Bradley. See the Mets play the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't remember who.
I would not go see the Mets play at the Mets Stadium.
Hey, the tickets were free.
If they were playing the Braves in Atlanta, I'd go watch it.
Well, they were free. The tickets were free. Oh. So, anyway.
They have to pay me to go watch the Mets.
Well, you can't win. Everybody know the Braves will. Everybody know the Braves will implode in October. Mm-hmm. And so again. Basketball Thursday night, boys playing game against Sequatchie County. Friday, Bledsoe girls will be against Tyner. We'd like you to go to the game. If you can't get to the game, you can listen to the game on WAT Thursday and Friday night. We'll have the pregame broadcast at 6:50 tomorrow night, and then at about around 6:20 tomorrow Friday night at CSAS. So we're going to bid you farewell, and we'll see you in 2 weeks as we can make some discussions, see how far Bledsoe County. Hopefully it'll be in Murfreesboro for March Madness. We'll talk about March Madness, as a matter of fact, as you're watching the Mike and Bradley sports scene here on Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative Channel 18. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Good day, everybody.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative in the Sequatchie Valley.